At the same time, I love your comment about we blame Satan too often for all the evil, because we're told in the Book of Mormon that it's our choices that give Satan power. He has no power over us until we turn our heart and we give the power to him. So he has no power. It is not his fault. He can use our weaknesses against us. I mean, he can tempt us, but only as far as we allow him to have our hearts. So that's a great point. Thank you for reminding us of that.
What you just said, actually, I have comments about what each of you said, but what you said, Karen, made me think, Matt and I have often talked, well, actually from something Audrey said in the lifelong learning class last year. It was so profound. We talked for a couple different lessons about responsibility and how to take appropriate responsibility, and I was already kind of thinking about that, but it was just life-altering how she got me thinking about responsibility and what's too much and what's too little, and now it's a part of our discussion a lot. Is this an appropriate amount of responsibility to be taking in this situation? Because that affects our happiness and our agency and our accountability. And we often take too much and we often take too little in different situations. And one of the things that she said that was so profound to me was that we blame God in our efforts to accept his will. We say, it must not have been God's will for blah, 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 blah to happen because it didn't happen, and so I'm just going to give it up because it wasn't God's will. I think that happens sometimes, but I think in reality a lot of the time we could have done more, and the thing that didn't happen
was our choice.
Was because of our own choices and our responsibility, and it's not necessarily our fault that we didn't do it. I mean, it could be our level of understanding and ability that led to those consequences and to the thing not happening that we wanted to happen, or whatever it is. But it's the blaming God that's not taking our own appropriate responsibility. And so what someone said, made me think, we try and give up our responsibility to God, and we also try and give up our responsibility and our accountability to Satan.
That's great.
We just try and say, and I mean, I don't think we're going to be as blatant as if we're trying to follow God to say, well, Satan made me do it. We know better than to say that. But I wonder what subtle ways we're really doing that and saying that.
I think we also have a tendency to take responsibility away from others. You know, when we talk about evil, it's almost like a general thing. People get really offended if you say something that someone did specifically was evil, because that's just offensive. That's not an evil person. Well, but there is evil in the world, and who's responsible for it? I mean, everyone needs responsibility for their actions, and I don't necessarily mean that we need to be hateful about it, but it's not hateful to say someone is evil. It really happens, and it's not. I think that's sometimes where we, especially with people that we love that are doing things that are not right, we want to blame it on Satan, not the person that we love. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I think we use that as a coping mechanism in lots of ways.
Well, and because we don't want to blame and we don't want to judge, because those are not emotions and not things that we should be doing, and so we try to figure out how to not blame and judge, and yet, so it's hard to I think, in our minds, give someone the appropriate responsibility without blaming and judging. Because I think that's our goal. Give them the responsibility that they need so that we're really looking at truth. But somehow, while we're doing that, don't give them the emotion of blame and all the yuckiness of blame. Somehow, I think that, I don't know, responsibility and blame, I want to be a little bit different here. And don't give them our judgment. We can say they chose wrong, without judging that means whatever. I don't know. I don't know what the appropriate way to do it is.
Well,
but
the thought that comes to mind as you're talking through that is Nephi telling his brothers, sometimes the truth is hard. And it is difficult. It's difficult for us to accept. It's difficult for other people to accept. But when we're truly looking for the truth, sometimes it's hard to open our eyes all the way to truth because of what it means in our lives and in the lives of the people that we love. And we can call it whatever we want. We can call it judging, we can call it blame, we can call it... But if we're truly looking for the truth and seeking the guidance of the Spirit, I think it can be done lovingly. But I don't think we need to turn away from what truth and responsibility bring. It's not always going to be pretty.
What were you gonna say, Deanna? Do you remember?
I just really uncomfortable calling people evil. I do think there are evil people, but I don't want to call somebody evil until they've sold their soul to Satan, which we know people do. There are some people I would definitely call evil, but I think most people, though they allow themselves to be influenced by evil and they may be participating in evil, are not inherently evil. I don't know.
Inherently evil. We
That
are
keep-
inherently celestial.
What?
We are inherently celestial. No one is inherently evil.
Yeah, so I have a hard time calling them evil unless they are truly, boldly Satan's partner. Like, there is a man who I would say is sheer evil. I think he is the closest thing to Satan I'm aware of living, and he is. But that's extreme. So anyway, I don't need to spend a lot of time on it.
We want to be nice. We want to give everyone the
Well, we
benefit
also,
of the doubt. And we know that people can change.
yeah.
But I don't think that, I don't know. I'm thinking of the wrong one. It's not Korihor, is it? That is converted by Alma and Amulek.
Zeezrom.
Yeah, Zeezrom.
I'm pretty sure Zeezrom was evil before he had the reality check. Before he felt the Spirit and realized that Alma and Amulek were speaking the truth. Because the truth was that he truly was trying to catch them in what they were saying.
Yeah.
That was his whole goal. What he was doing was evil. Are we inherently evil? No. Can we change? Absolutely. And I guess maybe that's the difference. Maybe when we say, we should just stick to what they're doing is evil.
That's how I just feel more comfortable with it.
I'm with you. My kids will sometimes ask me, "Is this the bad guy?" And I'm like, I don't really like that word "bad guy." Even in the movies, they try and make it clear who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. But the bad guy does some good stuff, and the good guy does some bad stuff, and that's how we all are. We all do some good stuff and some bad stuff.
So if we go back to our 5,000-year leap, on page 134 and 135, it talks about duties.
Yes.
So
Oh, I
instead
love
of calling
that.
somebody evil or good, maybe we can say, this person is not, or am I doing my duty?
Yeah.
And in order for this system to work, everybody has to take their duties seriously and do their duties. If they are not protecting their children, and if they are not providing shelter for their children, this is a duty that each family, each set of parents has, and if they don't do that duty, it affects the whole society.
It's true.
One other tiny little thing I wanted to say about what Landon said that was so interesting to me was that you said evil and good are eternal. And then with what you said too, Karen, I wanted to add to that, agency, I think, is eternal. I think a lot of things in life are not eternal, but I think good, evil, and agency are eternal, and they're foundational to everything. So I just like that.
Evil's eternal?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's always existed. It always will.
Yeah, because Landon's
At least we get 1,000 years where Satan is bound.
well, and Landon's point
But
to
it
me
still
is,
exists.
is so well taken. Satan did not tempt himself in the premortal life. There was an evil influence over him. So that right there proves that point to me that evil is
Yeah.
eternal.
And he just happens to be the one in our family who went
Right.
for it. I don't think I've ever thought of that before.
I don't think I have either.
That's an incredible
We have
thought.
some interesting stuff in our seminary, but
Yeah, it sounds like
you
it.
just don't think about.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And it does say that Satan will be bound for 1,000 years. But
He'll be bound. He
it's
still
because
exists.
it will be because we bind him in our hearts. I mean, it goes back to the same thing.
Yeah.
That we will be living in a way, hopefully it will be we, will be living in a way that binds him,
Yeah.
that he will be bound.
But even still, that's not going to abolish evil because we're not going to be perfect at that point. We're going to still be at the point in our progression, right?
Right.
Yes.
And there will still be, I think there would still be evil,
There will.
Well,
even with Satan.
I think we go back to the Book of Mormon, where he was basically bound in the Book of Mormon after the Savior came. They were so intimately aware of celestial worldview, for a lack of a better way to say it, that they lasted for 400
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
With 4 generations, 200 years
400 years.
400
No, I think it
years.
was 400 years, yeah.
before that started to fall apart. And so I think at the Savior's coming, right?
Yeah.
Then we will have that 1,000 years. It will be 1,000 years this time instead of just 400. But I think it will be the same process of being so intimately aware
And
of what
connected.
is celestial.
Mhm.
That it for some reason makes it easier to live. And I don't know how faith figures into all that.
Yeah.
I don't know
It
how
sounds
there's any
lovely.
faith. I know. I don't know how there's any faith anymore, but yeah. But I think it will be the same. We will bind him with our hearts. We just won't. We'll just be bound.